bizarre stuff.
Matt loves that.
I know. All right, 3, 2, 1. Well, hey, so glad that you could join us today. I'm here with one of my really good friends, Levi Lusko, pastor of Fresh Life Church. Really a church with many locations, 11 locations now, Montana, Utah, soon to be Wyoming.
Got one in Oregon.
Oregon as well, my goodness. I can't keep up with all the states that you guys are
So much
in.
fun.
But I just thought today we would just take a moment like we always do and just talk a little bit about leadership, and we're kind of letting everyone into our own little personal conversation. Church is now 10 years old, 11 years old.
We just hit 10 in January, so 10 and a half right now.
Man, it's incredible. And I, of course, have gotten to come to Fresh Life, and it's inspiring.
Ride horses, shirtless. I mean, just the stuff you do.
So you got to tell that story, because that's a good story. Remember
Oh my gosh. So Rich comes with us to Montana to preach. While we're there, I'm like, do you want to do something Montana-y? Yeah, let's ride horses. And so at one point, I'm with my daughter, and Rich got separated.
With your daughter already makes it sound
I'm like with
more
Livy.
scandalous, you know?
I'm like, I can't find Rich. And I look up, and the ranch hand was like, he's over there. And I look, Rich has no shirt on, and he's got his cowboy hat flapping in the air. He's like the man from Snowy River, just riding along.
It's a dream.
Then we look up, and there's black bears running along this ridge. Rich is shirtless. I believe you ended up, your horse hurt his foot.
Yeah,
you ended up riding on your brother-in-law's.
No, David, he had to ride the back of my horse, my brother-in-law. So I'm shirtless with another man on the back of the horse.
Bears. It was a good time.
You know what was really scary about that too? I put an Instagram up and I used the hashtag shirtless cowboy.
Okay.
Now, when you click on that hashtag, I can't say that the best other
It's not the most wholesome subgenre of the internet.
some other stuff comes up, but nonetheless, great stories came out of that trip.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Can I just say how glad I am to be here
Thank you.
at VOUS HQ. It's just beautiful and amazing.
This is your first time to VOUS HQ, first time to VOUS
Church. Just been following, inspired by what you and Don Schroeder are doing, and just amazing.
Yeah, we're coming off of our team conference, which you were here in Miami to speak at, and just absolutely lit the place up. And hopefully, I know we're gonna be making that content available to people. Talking about be the key. What a great talk. But I want to kind of come into this space a little bit and just have a conversation with you, with those that are watching, around the idea of leadership, because this is not new to you. This is something that you've been doing for a long time. Yet one of the things I've watched about your life is I feel like your life is a life of progression. We often say here that it's not about perfection, it's about progress. It's about taking small steps and getting better. And when I think about you, you're a leader who just constantly, continually gets better. Maybe just for all intents and purposes, for those that are watching so we can get on the same page, how do you define like leadership?
Sure.
It's kind of a bold, big question, but
I think influence is really leadership. It's a mistake to call leadership authority, because you can actually have much greater influence than your authority. Like, take that story in the book of Acts where Paul's on that ship as a prisoner.
Yeah.
He has no authority. He's a prisoner. But by the end of the story, he's in charge, telling people not to let the men leave in the ships, the little lifeboats, telling people when to eat, telling people when to pray, telling them when it's time to finally abandon ship. Yeah. And you're basically in charge. Why? Because he had something better than authority. He had influence.
Yeah.
He was a leader because he lived a life worth following. And I think sometimes we make the mistake of letting our authority determine our productivity.
Wow.
So I won't lead because I don't have the power to lead. And so I let the greatness inside of me, stay there. But what if Joseph would have done that? He was called to lead, and he had in his head what it would look like. My brothers bow down to me. I'm the man. That's actually how it ends. His brothers all bow down to him.
Yeah.
Pharaoh's saying, do whatever you want. Here's my signet ring. Here's my backup chariot. Pharaoh rode in, Air Force One or Air Horse One.
There you go.
Joseph rolled in Air Horse Two. You
Yeah.
know. So by the end, it all came true. But he didn't wait till his authority matched his dream.
Wow.
His dream of leadership could work in any context.
Beautiful.
So in Potiphar's house, what's he doing? Working his butt off. Potiphar eventually says, I won't take care of anything but my menu.
Yeah.
In the prison, he didn't have to lead, but he did. He cleaned the cell. Eventually, the prison keeper put him in charge of the whole prison. Why? Because he never let his authority dictate how he would respond to life.
Beautiful.
So I think leadership is much more powerful than how much you can boss people around.
Yeah.
It's the ability to live a life worth following and knowing what God put inside of you.
Well, I think it's beautiful. I love that little phrase you said, that's how it ends. Like, it ends with the dream, but that's not how it starts.
No.
And I think that is the journey of leadership. Leadership is about taking people oftentimes to a place that they never even knew existed.
Yep.
Sometimes they didn't even want to go there,
Yep.
but you use your influence to get to that end result. You've been pastoring for 11 years, as you said. Maybe talk about the early days for a moment, because we were talking with our team earlier. What do we want to talk to Levi about? And one of the things that people were like, we want to ask Levi about taking nothing to something. Because that's what you guys have done in Montana, and that's part of leadership, is using my influence. I've got nothing here, but I'm going to turn it into something. Sure. Can you just maybe give some of the early day stories of where you started? Because now what people say is like Levi Lusko, Fresh Life Church, 11 locations, all these states. It's not how you started.
Yeah, someone said one time, years of hardship, adversity, and grinding it out in obscurity, and you too can be an overnight success. It's like everyone wants to be overnight success. It's like, there's a recipe for it. It's just be faithful in the darkness, and eventually, God will shine a light. And I think for us, maybe there's more recognition today, but like you said, it's the long obedience in the same direction.
Yeah.
But for us, the early days, man, we started the church just with a vision and a dream to tell people in Montana about Jesus. We moved there. I did not know there was an ARC. People today, I hear about what ARC will teach you and give you by way of systems and network and growth track and raise the money and interest meetings and startup parties and going in with everything already sorted out in your launch team. It's like, okay, we did it all wrong. We started the church the weekend after we arrived in the city. Literally, it was like we got there on a Tuesday. It was like, hey, we're starting a church. Let's do it Sunday,
Yeah.
So we had this little space above a bar.
Like it just began.
Just literally
we're here.
Yeah, let's
church
go.
Start, yeah.
So we walked around town. There was one of us, with us there that was going to be part of the launch crew, and we just started inviting people. Like, hey, come to Fresh Life. Like, what's Fresh Life? It's church. We're starting Sunday. Come. All together, it was 14 people on the first gathering.
It's crazy.
And so, but it was just like the faithfulness of, hey, we're going to open up Scripture.
Yeah.
We're going to worship, and we just had this vision. Henry Ford. He said, if I would have asked people what they wanted in what I was going to make for them, they would have asked for a faster horse. They didn't even see the potential for a car. And I think, in the early days as we were building Fresh Life, a lot of people would come up and be like, this is a great idea. I know what you're doing. I've been to churches like this in other cities, but you don't know the area. It's not going to work here. It's been tried. It's not going to work here. And I think we just had to believe in the dream. And so, it was hard. Our first year, I broke my femur, snapped it in half in a snowmobile wreck.
Oh my God.
We just from that moment on, I feel like there hasn't been a season of major blessing and opportunity of increase that hasn't been met by some sort of difficulty.
Wow.
And it's not just like there's the best of times, then there's the worst of times. The funniest thing is, and I'm sure you would say this out of your experience, oftentimes the most difficult times come in the midst of the greatest blessing.
This is good, yeah.
Almost like melancholy that you're experiencing even on the best Sunday. And I think that's one of the most surprising things about leadership to me is how hard it is when the dream goes well. And what sometimes those Mondays can look like, and just difficulty in the midst of blessing.
Yeah, I think sometimes in the journey, many times we spend our time as leaders focusing on all the things that we're not, all the things that we need to get better at, all the things that we're weak at. Looking back now on your journey, I think this is kind of fun. Sometimes it's easy to connect the dots looking back.
Sure.
I love you, because I've noticed in our life that every time we have momentum or every time we have a breakthrough, it's always on the heels or on the backs of a whole lot of opposition, obstacles. In fact, now we've kind of got it on our team that when we're going against something, we're being persecuted, when we feel like there's setbacks or challenges, we always go, something good's coming.
Heck yeah.
Something good's coming out of this.
Heck yeah.
Talk maybe for a moment from your angle. What do you think? Sometimes I think we ask the question, what did you guys not do well? What did you guys and what do you guys do well at Fresh Life Church? Because that to me sometimes is the secret. People sometimes they spend so much time working on all the things that are going wrong, when sometimes it's the four things that they do really, really well that you can build on, that you can brand, that you can bring momentum around.
Yeah, that's a great question. I think I heard it said you have to do autopsies on your successes, not just your failures.
Okay.
And I think that's like if you did an event and it kind of flopped, you're going to get everyone in the conference room right now. Let's debrief the heck out of that thing. And you're going to do a post-mortem on it.
Yeah.
Figure out why it failed. But I think sometimes with our successes, we're just like, hey, that was great. Oh my gosh.
Wow, this is good, yeah.
And you don't really take the time to thoroughly debrief it. What if it was an accidental success? Or what if it actually wasn't a success because of what it could have been?
Yeah.
And I love what you were saying about how, oh, yay, we had 30 people at this team rally, but there's actually 100 people on that team, whereas we had 9, but there was 14 on a different team. One was more successful.
Yeah.
So you being willing to assess what actually was successful.
Yeah.
That's one of the big things I think that we failed to do. But I would look back on my life, and what was successful, I think, many times was knowing when to end something.
Okay.
And oftentimes it was while it was still working. You know, I think if you know you have to pivot away from something ultimately, things don't always last longer than a season. So for us, there was different things that were indispensable to a season of our church, but they couldn't take us to where we were supposed to go or couldn't take us to the next level. And so the difficulty of killing something that's a baby to you, that's something precious to you, that's a sacred cow to the church.
Yeah.
Everyone loves that so much, and it's going good still. But knowing it's going good, but I see the writing on the wall, and it's not sustainable, or it's not scalable, or it won't be something that we can keep doing in multiple locations or whatever, and being willing to kill it while it's still working.
I think that's a beautiful thought. I think I used to have a business teacher in college. He used to say this. He said, if the horse is dead, dismount.
Right.
And it sounds simple, but I think sometimes in the church world, and I think things we're talking about today transferred to organizations, to businesses, but definitely it works in the church world. We are notorious for writing things that are dead because they become a sacred cow. Oh, I love this ministry, I love this thing, and so we need to keep resourcing this, fueling this, but it's actually dead. It's time to move on from that. And I think in our church, what we've tried to look at is, I think Andy Stanley says it this way. He says, if you don't know why it's working when it's working, you won't know how to fix it when it breaks.
Heck yeah.
And so I think what we're constantly trying to do right now is that as a church, we sense the momentum of God, and we know that God's breathed on it, and we want to give all credit, all glory to God. But we also want to identify the things that we're doing that set us up in the posture and the position for God to work in the best way. So I think for VOUS Church, as we started, like things that we've just done well naturally, we haven't been trying to be a church that goes and gets creatives. We just are a church of creatives. Sure. And so I think things from our design and aesthetics, those things matter to us. We are talking right now, we're going to talk with our staff. You'll love this. It's called fundamental leadership. And I don't know if I should share this here, but we're going to do it because we're having fun anyways. But I was recently in Texas. I was in this outlet mall, and I'm going through, and I see this old outlet mall. It's got all these old stores. A lot of them have gone out of business now. But at the end of the mall, there's this Rainforest Cafe. Right. And I was a kid. I always loved the Rainforest Cafe. No offense towards the Rainforest Cafe, but I kind of think to myself, like, what was that pitch like, you know? I got this idea, man. We're going to put a rainforest in every mall in America. And it's like, oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, we're going to get monkey noises, jungle noises.
Yeah.
Woo, woo, woo. It's going to be the whole thing, man. It's going to be the Rainforest Cafe. And I finally could see someone going like, okay, dude, but like, what's on the menu?
Yeah, right.
And some guy goes, bro, I think...
It doesn't even matter.
It doesn't matter. It's the Rainforest Cafe.
You can serve monkey brains. Yeah.
And I think sometimes churches do the same thing. Today, a lot of Rainforest Cafes, God bless them, they should come back, but they've gone out of business. And it's because Rainforest Cafe, like, the truth of the matter is that they're in the food industry.
Yeah.
And the menu comes first, the aesthetics come second. I think a lot of times people look at VOUS Church and they go, oh, it's all these aesthetics and creatives. Well, that stuff that's kind of part of our DNA, but really I think we're trying to figure out fundamental leadership, the things that matter the most. We're in the food industry as a church. We're into serving God's word. How well are we doing that? What type of leaders are we raising up? We want to make sure we get those things right. Then all the trappings and aesthetics and the rainforest can follow.
Totally. The steak is the gospel. The plate is how we present it.
Yeah.
And if we have the nicest plate ever, but we're not actually bringing the food, that's no good. And if we have a great steak on a paper plate and people with plastic forks trying to eat it, that's not good. So I think we want to have the nice setting, get that right. But then also, at the end of the day, you got to have that steak there.
I think if it's okay for me to say, outside looking in at Fresh Life, one of the things I think that I stand in awe of you guys about, and I don't know if you define this as one of your distinct competencies, but when I look at you guys from afar, it's consistency and energy. And those are two things that sometimes people like kind of downplay, but as I watch you guys, I go, you consistently have energy to continually put your best foot forward. Wow. I know some people that can like do a cool creative series one time, but I just feel like back to back to back, you guys have built processes and systems to maintain and sustain energy. I don't know if that resonates at all with you, but maybe talk about energy for a moment, because it's kind of a word that doesn't get talked enough about in leadership that I think matters a lot to us.
That's part of, conserving energy is probably one of the most important things that any of us will do. Conserving personal energy walking into a weekend, energy walking into the right season. And I think one of the things that's helped us, because we didn't get that right, and what I mentioned earlier, knowing to do right, of killing things when they were still working, part of that was energy conservation for us. So we used to do a midweek service, always. The church I grew up in, and I'm sure you as well, man, midweek service, you went on Wednesday night to church.
Yeah.
You know,
well, if you want to go to heaven.
If you wanted to go to heaven.
Which
good
we kind of all do.
Yeah, right?
My grandfather used to always close service and he would say, hey, Drive safe. We all want to go to heaven, but not tonight. Good night, folks.
Hey.
I always loved it. So
Yeah, right. It's like the Can a Christian Smoke?
Yeah, it's like Johnny Carson.
And Can a Christian Smoke and go to heaven? Yeah, those kids are fast.
Oh, I love that. I've been using that for years.
Come on. So,
Rich, not here.
or the Can Christians dance? Put some music on, we'll find out. So some can, some can't. But
That'll preach.
the Wednesday service, when we started the church, it was first Sunday. Hey, we'll see you next week. We're going to start the Gospel of John verse by verse. And we spent the first year just going through John. Best foundation ever. Just life of Jesus. And we said, and come on Wednesday, we're going to start the book of Acts. So we started a midweek service. Then eventually I had this kind of
So
vision.
you were teaching through 2 books of the Bible simultaneously?
Yeah.
You're a freak of
No,
nature,
but here's
bro.
the thing. Here's the problem with that. So it was great, and I feel like it got our church caught up to speed very quickly on culture and theology and all that stuff. But there came a point when I realized I started branding the series. So then I like when I first started, it was just like Gospel of John, Gospel of Acts. But then I like figured out, oh man, you can brand series. You know, that's cool.
Yeah.
So I came up with a name for it. I started Revelation, called it At World's End. It was from Pirates of the Caribbean, you know, but it's just, it was cool. So then, you know, starting Ephesians, called it Sit, Walk, Stand, or something like that. So we were coming up with creative and bumper videos and packaging, sermon titles, outline points, and I'm doing 2 of those every week, plus the outside stuff, plus my family's growing, and I just realized, this is gonna kill me. I'm preaching a whole lifetime in like 2 years of time. So, and our midweek service was cranking. We called it Skull Church, just awesome.
Yeah, that's a cool name.
But the decision, because Jesus died at Skull Hill.
Yeah.
But the decision to kill it so we could roll the energy into the weekend, it was a hard thing. And a lot of people were like, I got saved. And I think that's the hard thing. But knowing to say no to something good in order to say yes to something great.
It's vital.
And there's 1,000 decisions like that a year. And I think also it's seasons. I think you guys do so good with that, with the way you roll out seasons and all that. I think knowing like there's summer seasons, it's okay to not fight that. People are gone more. That's maybe not in Miami, but in Montana, people are just gone in the summer, whatever. But not fighting against that, actually leaning into that. It's
beautiful.
So we'll bring in a bunch of amazing authors like Rich Wilkerson to come speak on their book. We'll tell the church, hey, as you're going on vacation, take this book with you. Become an online giver so you can still plan out your faithfulness while you're gone. Then I'm not fighting their family vacation, because at the end of the day, it's a good thing if they're going on a family vacation. Like, what's so bad about you mean families just spending time together? Well, not on my watch. It was like, wait a minute. I'm not going to berate
going
you.
on family vacation.
None of you go to church in the
You don't
summer.
take a vacation from God.
You think the devil takes a vacation?
You think you take a vacation from church? What? Yeah, it's amazing.
Exactly.
We've
so
heard all
instead
this.
to go, hey, you know what? I'm like telling you, no, go into the woods, go camping.
Yeah.
You know, and it's almost like, wait, reverse psychology. They're like, no, what if I want to be there?
Yeah,
You know, it's like,
I'm coming.
No, I'll be there. It then just goes up, like by me telling them not to come. You know, so but that's part of conserving energy. And for me, I take a month of not preaching in the summer. I encourage every pastor to get a break. It'll cause the people to actually want to hear you more when you come back. You know, but then I have a whole well of stuff to give out.
It's nice to be missed every once in a while, isn't it?
Hello.
I think one of the lessons I've learned, we've been going just for a very short time, just 2 years as a church. But one of the things I've learned, hopefully quickly, is that the bigger we become, the smaller I have to be.
Good.
As we get big, I got to keep getting small. And what I mean by that is that I've got to keep coming back to myself and making sure that I'm healthy. We always say healthy things grow. And I think energy is one of these words that is far, far underestimated in organizational life, church life. Because I'm not just trying to do it 1 week. I want to, like your life, I want to continue to progress. And so for us, I think we're constantly trying to manage the calendars, manage the staff, manage the servant leaders, manage the church, and making sure that they've got a healthy rhythm. I've always liked that word rhythm because it just resonates with me more. Like you, my life on paper doesn't make much sense, but as I get a rhythm down into it, I can find moments to be healthy. And what I've learned just as we grow, my body language, the way I come into moments, it matters so much. And so, you know, Mondays, like I had to change it, and you're one of the kind of guys that challenge me, but like we get done with 6 services on Sunday. I work out on Sunday morning, and I come on Monday morning. First thing I do is I go to the gym.
Right.
Because I got to sweat, I got to clear my mind a little bit, and then I get in the office around 11:55, but I always want to come in on Monday, regardless of what I felt like, and I want to bring the right energy, because I can literally tell that my energy that I bring into this space transfers into the team that I'm working with. Yep. The reality is that I need our team to constantly be producing the right energy, and sometimes they just need a leader who has the right energy. So as we grow bigger, I got to keep growing smaller, which is really coming down to the point of leading myself in a better way.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
And as you are doing more, how do you continue to put at the forefront your personal health, your family's personal health? How do you continue to lead yourself?
You just said it right there. I mean, before we lead anybody else, we have to lead ourselves. And we're not going to lead teams better than we're leading ourselves. And no organization can be healthier than you are. Like your church can't be healthier than you are personally.
I love that.
And your church can't be healthier than your marriage is. So you and Don Cherie, that's the overflow of the house. And so I think
great.
when we're choosing, and for me, the biggest growth in my life has come in the last couple of years of focusing on emotional intelligence and emotional health. I think sometimes we think only of the emails we write or the things that we say publicly, but not realizing, like you said, the nonverbal body language. You know, it's the way we either diffuse or radiate stress. It's handling those things well and guarding ourselves in those interactions. And I think for me, I have to watch myself constantly like a hawk. You know, hawks, they're flying above the ground, they're looking down. If I watch myself and coach myself the way I would consult anybody else. And it's like that running voice in your head, like Jarvis, you know, like, hey, avoid that. Don't say that. No, oh, you did it. You run away now.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, so I think it's just realizing and then just realizing that I can grow. And the leader I've been doesn't have to be the leader I'm going to remain. And never underestimating the power of incremental improvement. We, in our culture, we praise the wrong thing so often. We celebrate event, but we forget about process.
Yeah.
We love the Sunday, but forget about the Tuesday. And I heard Pastor Chris Hodges a while back say, Sundays can't change anybody. And I pushed back on that. I'm like, wait a minute. And he goes, no, Sundays can make you want to change.
Wow.
So they can't change you. You hear it, but you still have to live it out. And so I think when we remember incremental improvement, and if I can give a paper cut, they say supposedly 1,000 paper cuts can kill somebody. And so if I view whatever enemy it is in my life, whether it's time management or preaching or I want to grow in this or whatever, if I give it a paper cut, that doesn't feel like much, but just give another paper cut. Just another paper cut. Make a little improvement. Get a little bit better at there. Working out in the morning. I always do leg day on Monday. I hate legs the most, so I want to do legs first. Someone's like, what? Why would you suffer so bad? Because after that, everything's great.
There you go.
Nothing's 6:30 on a Monday
gets a lot better after
doing
you got...
deadlifts. Everything's an improvement. And it's like that leadership guru said, eat that frog, you know?
Yeah.
You heard the quote from is Mark Twain. He says, if you ever have to eat a frog, eat it first thing in the morning, because then it's the worst thing you've done all day. And if you have to eat 2 frogs, eat the ugliest one first.
I like that. It's beautiful. Talking about just change, one of the things we've said at our church from the get-go is that we don't really believe that, we think that sermons are a catalyst for change, but real change happens in the conversations, in the context of doing life together. Sure. And I'm grateful
it's the sermon after the sermon.
Yeah.
Jesus preaches, he grabs the disciples, they're like, now what did that mean?
Yeah.
You know?
Let's talk about that.
Group.
Yeah, it's a small group.
Yeah.
And I think my life has benefited from having friends like you, and we've got really kind of a good group of guys that we get to do life with that really challenge one another, and a lot of conversations that this is kind of the point of today is I think we have such good conversations that are potent and purposeful that I want to try to be able to let some people in every once in a while. As we're kind of wrapping up a little bit, thinking of leadership, thinking about all the years you've been leading, really taking, I love your story, nothing turning into something today. It's a beautiful organization. It's touching a lot of people's lives. But that has not come without a real price and real suffering. Many people are aware of your story, which you've been so gracious to share with so many people, about your daughter Lenya, the death of a child, physical pain, losing staff members, leaving, all these different challenges. When are you most inclined, and I don't know if that's the right way to say it, or have you ever been inclined to quit or to give up? And what have you told yourself to keep going?
Yeah.
Because I think a lot of people are maybe there listening right now.
Well, the hardship aspect, God spoke to my heart early on in suffering, that crushing releases anointing.
Wow.
So when you lean into crushing but don't fight against it, it actually produces that olive oil that runs down your brow. That's God preparing you for the next level of service. And there's a verse in Jeremiah that just always rocks me to the core. Jeremiah wants to quit. He tried to quit a bunch of times. I'm too young, can't do it. God's like, don't tell me you're too young. Who made your mouth? You know, kind of like God said to Moses, which is so sassy. Like, I can't speak. God's like, who made your mouth? You know, Jeremiah's like, I'm too young. God says, don't tell me you're too young. You're going to do exactly what I'm going to give you the strength. Then he tried to quit when it didn't go well. And if you know Jeremiah, preached his whole life, never had a single convert that we know of. Okay, gets put in a pit, gets he gets pulled out like once a day and beaten. I mean, it's horrible. And he says to God, it's too much. I can't do it. And God says to Jeremiah, he says, really, you're going to quit now? you've only run with the footmen. There's horses coming. And that, it's so funny because on one hand, it seems like the worst bedside manner of any doctor ever. Like, here's this patient, he's like dying, he's like, it's gonna get worse, you know?
Yeah.
But ironically, that was the thing that catalyzed in Jeremiah the desire to keep going, because it reminded him of the original promises, meaning you haven't completed all that's gonna happen yet. You've only preached in one city, but you're supposed to preach to kingdoms.
Wow.
God had told him at a young age, I'm gonna use you to preach all over the world, and he had only preached in his hometown when he was complaining. Jeez. So the idea is reminding him it's going to get much harder, much worse eventually, gave him the strength to not give up over here. And so for me, when it was hurting the most, I felt like God almost saying, like, are you going to give up now? Because then you won't see the dream fulfilled. And if you keep going, I've given you the strength, and my command is my enabling. So I would say to those who are hurting, lean into that discomfort. It's part of what God's producing. But the other way I look at the daily challenges, obviously a broken femur and a daughter going to heaven in your arms, that's a different category than the daily stuff. And Paul separated that out. He said, I've been beaten, I've been shipwrecked, I've been stoned, besides the other things that come upon me daily.
Yeah.
Okay, so the stuff like that, the staff stuff, the hardship, the critics, the newspaper headlines, the people who misunderstand your intentions and all that stuff, I tend to just kind of say it's a necessary component of gardening. And I guess I could just wrap up this long thing with this. When you do work in gardening, you're actually inviting weeds, because weeds are a plant attracted to a disturbed environment. So when you disturb the earth, you have to know weeds are coming. And when we do work for the ministry, we're naive to not remember that Jesus said, whenever the Son of Man sows seeds, the enemy comes in by night and sows the weeds. So the work that we're doing is guaranteeing there's work for the enemy to come. You can't take ground in Miami without knowing there's weeds coming.
Come on.
And to those listening, whatever context you serve Jesus in, just expect the opposition, because whenever God opens a great door, the enemy tries to shut it.
I think it's beautiful. I appreciate you even sharing that. I know there's people that are watching right now, and I don't know what your story is, but I would just echo what Levi's saying. My grandpa used to always say, it's always too soon to quit.
Come on.
And many times I think we just give up just a little bit too soon, and we miss out on the harvest that God wants to bring about. The truth of the matter is that the greater the breaking, the greater the anointing. And even in suffering, God can reveal his purpose and his glory in your life. And we need you. I know there's young leaders that are watching right now, and really the purpose of some of this content that we're trying to create is that we're trying to give people handles wherever you're at. What I love about Levi's story is that, you know, Montana is not typically the city that you would go, the state you would go to go, hey, I want to be known by the world. But even in a place that maybe the world wouldn't pick, God picked it for Levi, and out of his obedience, God has now picked Levi out of that space to take him really around the world, and has been a voice to so many. And I know here in Miami, our church has been so impacted from Fresh Life, and we watch it all, we learn from all of it, and we're just so grateful.
We feel the same way about you guys. We're inspired by you.
Well, we love you, and we know the best is yet to come.
Excited for that baby boy.
Let's go now.
On.
He's coming.
Yeah.
He's coming. I love you, brother. Thank you so much. Appreciate you. God bless you guys.